Hi, everyone, and welcome to another installment of the Ethicast. I'm your host, Bill Coffin, and with me today is Erica Salmon Byrne, CEO of Ethisphere. Today, Erica will be talking about Ethisphere's 2023 Ethical Culture Insights Report, which contains our latest data on the forces driving ethical culture within organizations, as well as comparisons on key ethical culture metrics pre and post pandemic. Erica, thanks so much for joining us.
Bill, it is always a pleasure to be here with you, and even more so when I get to talk about my favorite topic.
Outstanding. So let's get right into it. Ethisphere's culture survey database is second to none, with some 2 million responses in it. Now, it could drill down on any aspect of corporate culture. So why did Ethisphere focus on how cultures fared over the course of the pandemic, and specifically how different age cohorts have shown different experiences in that time frame?
Yeah, Bill, it's a great question. So, as I said in my intro to the culture report itself, we feel a real obligation here at Ethisphere to share our insights so that all can learn, right? That's kind of part of the founding ethos of the business.
Mhm.
And so much has been written about what the pandemic's going to do to the future of work, what the next wave of work looks like, what we've learned over the course of the pandemic. And so, given the size of our data set, we thought it was a real natural opportunity to cut the data, what happened before March 2020, what has happened since March 2020, and then also to think about what do those lessons tell us about what it's going to look like to manage the workforce of the future. And so again, because the size of the N is as big as it is, we have so much ground to play with. We thought, I wonder what it would look like if we cut the data by generation. And in fact, we found some really interesting stuff.
Interesting. What would you say is one of the most interesting things you found when you look at it from a generational standpoint? Because I find
Yeah,
that to
from a
be
generational standpoint.
a very compelling
Sorry, go
angle.
ahead.
No. I was saying I'll do the question again. What is the most interesting thing that you got out of looking at this from a generational standpoint? That strikes me as a very compelling angle.
Yeah, well, it certainly was. I mean, it was a really interesting way to think about and look at the data. So from a generational standpoint, I think the thing that I certainly took away was something that I've been talking about for a while now, which is the continued importance of the manager, right?
Mm.
So
Mhm.
the way that we prepare our managers to lead, what we've expected of our managers over the course of the pandemic, the way people need to prepare to manage the generation of the future, which is, we said it in the report, the kids are not all right. There's a big
Yeah.
cohort of the youngest members of our workforce that need more from managers from a care and feeding perspective. And we've got to be prepared for that, right? We have to be prepared for open door. We have to be prepared for those voices to challenge us, right?
Mhm.
The speaking as a poor neglected Gen Xer, we we
You and
had a
me both.
we had a very different attitude when it
Yeah.
came to what we expected from our managers, right? When we
Mhm.
came into the workforce, than the people who are coming in now. And so, as a compliance professional, as someone who is interested in the topic of safe and open speak up culture,
Mhm.
really thinking through how to prep managers for the kids that are coming out of college now, we've got to get ahead of it.
Now that brings me to my next question, which is why now? I mean, we could be doing this at any time, but it seems like this is the the time frame of this report feels very intentional to me. So I'm trying to wonder what exactly was Ethisphere looking for by deciding this report in this moment.
Yeah, it's a good question. So it was really driven by two main factors. We did a very well received series of reports on our culture data at the end of 2019, first part of 2020. So we did a 3-part series then on some of the insights that we were seeing from the data set that we had at the time. And then, during the course of the pandemic, we primarily shifted over to sharing those insights in webcasts. And what we were hearing from our Bella community was they were interested in the ideas that we had around culture. They were interested in what the data had to say. Some of the data presentations that we've done at the last 2 Global Ethics summits around our data have been some of the best received sessions at those 2 events in particular. And so the time really seemed ripe to come back out again with something in writing, right? We've done all of this webcasting, visual data presentations, talking about it, but giving some people something tangible that they could walk away with, and particularly walk into their internal audiences, right? Walk into their CEO's office, walk into their board meeting, walk into a meeting with their chief people officer and say, here's what Ethisphere's data is saying. How much of this are we seeing inside our own data sets? Is there internal data that's saying something similar? Is there engagement survey data that's saying something similar? How are we measuring culture? And importantly, what are we doing with those results? All of those are real opportunities now, particularly as we think about, what does the working environment of the future look like? Are we hybrid as a business? Well, that's one set of expectations for managers. Is everybody coming back into the office? That's a different set of expectations for managers. Are we allowing people to continue to work remotely? What does that look like? That's a third set of expectations for managers. So really thinking through kind of those pieces and saying, what does our internal data say? What does Ethisphere's data say? And what are we going to do with all of this to, at the end of the day, make our workforce give them the every opportunity to tell them tell us what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that information is a gift, right? That's the fundamental message of this report is all of this information is a gift. It's all something you can do something with. You just have to have the right attitude.
So you have said that culture matters more than ever. I absolutely love that statement. My question to you is, how do the findings of this culture survey support that statement of yours, that culture matters more than ever?
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing to kind of be pulling this report together at this particular moment in time as we look at the generational data and kind of the expectations of the workforce of the future, as we look at some of the things that are happening out in the world, whatever the economic situation is that we're going into. The fact of the matter is, Bill, that if you think about the average company out there today, somewhere between 70 and 80% of its value is going to be tied up in intangible assets, right? It's not stuff for most companies anymore, right? It's brand value, it's goodwill, it's reputation, it's intellectual property, and it's people, right? Well, how do you hold on to your best asset? It's culture. And so that's the reason why I think we're seeing investors care so much about this. That's the reason why we're seeing future employees care so much about this. And that's the reason why we're seeing regulators mention it as much as they have been. The amount of focus from board members, investors, regulators, future employees, you name it, across the board on this question of, are you nurturing the right kind of culture? Are you supporting the right kind of culture? Are you growing the right kind of culture? It's incredible to me. It's just incredible to me how everyone has sort of coalesced around this question of culture. And, for a lot of people, it's kind of amorphous. What is culture? But to me, it's easy to measure. Do your people know what's expected of them? Are they willing to raise their hand when they have a question? And how do they feel about that process, right? Those are the fundamental questions that you ought to be able to answer about the organizational ecosystem in which your people are operating. And if the answer to any one of those questions is something you don't have, go find out, right? Because at the end of the day, I saw a stat the other day that on average, it takes about $1 million to replace a mid-level executive if somebody turns over, right? So think about that cost, right? And again, why do people leave jobs? More often than not, they're not leaving the job, they're leaving their manager. So it all really comes down to that fundamental linchpin around which everything else spins. And it is absolutely measurable if you've got the appetite to do it.
Fantastic. Erica, I learned so much every time I speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your insights.
My pleasure. Anytime at all, Bill.
So to learn more about the 2023 Ethical Culture Insights Report, please visit www.ethisphere.com/2023-culture-report. And also be sure to register for our upcoming webinar on this report, which is scheduled for January 19th. To register for that, please visit ethisphere.com/events. I'm Bill Coffin, and this has been the Ethicast. For more episodes, please visit the Ethisphere Resource Center at ethisphere.com/resources. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.